I think Night of Champions 2013 is going to be one of those shows that it depends on your current perspective of the WWE product as to whether or not you enjoyed this pay-per-view or didn't. If you're one of those ones right now that is not enjoying the WWE product and there are certain reasons for that lack of enjoyment, you found that lack of reasons to enjoy this pay-per-view in this show. If you're somebody right now like I am that has found reasons to enjoy the WWE product, you did find enough in this pay-per-view to be able to enjoy it. Was it a perfect pay-per-view? No. Would I even classify this as a great or even very good pay-per-view? Probably not. Just good enough, I think, to get the job done and keep me interested like I have been for the past month. Let's talk about the presentation of this pay-per-view. I thought there were some very big hits and a couple of misses. God's promo to start. You know, I thought personally that he was coming out to plug his new DVD, Thy Kingdom Come, coming out September 24th, which all of you should be like me, waiting outside, just for the principle of the matter, waiting outside of Walmart for that time, midnight, September 24th, when you can get that 3 discs of awesomeness that is Thy Kingdom Come. I thought he was going to plug that. You might not like promos like this on a pay-per-view because you feel like they belong on a TV show, and usually I agree with you, but at least this addressed the discrepancy of not having every title being defended on the show. We got an IC title match out of this, and it set a stipulation for the main event, so at least it was productive, even though it could have been more productive if God would have been plugging his DVD set, which he should have been. Frankly, I'm a little disappointed in Hunter that he didn't take the time out to promote himself. That's like Breakfast Club 101, isn't it? That's like one of the first 3 bylaws of the Breakfast Club. I know it is for my supper club, damn it. I really loved A-Rye on the panel. In fact, this whole panel concept of Josh Matthews and A-Rye and Booker T and Santino Marella, they need to go to this more. But I like this particular collection. This was a fun collection. A-Rye is a good fit here. He's natural. The only thing I don't like is his Miz-like haircut. It's bullshit. You should be disappointed in yourself, A-Rye. Get a man's haircut, damn it. Yeah, and I know, I've got a lot of room to talk. But your haircut looks like Ms. Light. That's ridiculous. Despicable. Get a better haircut. I don't like commercials on pay-per-views, and we got plenty of them here. And, of course, the inevitable plug-in of the fucking troops. Oh, they're all the things they do. Ah, shut up. I'm sorry. I don't want to tune into a wrestling product to hear that crap. And it takes me into a whole other political thing that I won't even get into. I like the fact that this card had 8 matches on it instead of 6 or 7. I think it helps out the pacing of the show. It helps out the flow of the show. I wasn't the biggest fan of the card structure, though. I thought they could have done a better job of spacing Miz and Fandango and Punk versus Axel and Heyman throughout the show instead of kind of back-to-back to kind of split up the title matches a little bit better than they did. So I thought that was a little off. I love the fact they were doing this greatest champions of all time, and they did it for all the belts. It really pissed me off, though, that Macho Man wasn't one of the considerations for the greatest IC champion of all time. That was pretty bad to me. Booker T is the greatest world heavyweight champion in WWE history. Really? Booker T? I'm glad A-Rye pointed that shit out, too, because that was kind of funny, actually. Sting is the greatest U.S. champion of all time in WWE history, or just in history, period. And Sting won by a wide margin. WWE, you could tell they're just trying to make still any overtures they can. You know that's got to eat away at Vince deep down inside, even if he'll never admit it in public. He wants Sting there. He just wants to be able to say he did some business with Sting. And you know deep down that eats at him a little bit. And frankly, I know deep down it has to eat at Sting at least a little bit. Leave a little bit of those what ifs or what would happen if. You know, so that kind of thing. DX for the greatest tag team champions in WWE history, though that's ridiculous. That should be the Hart Foundation. I might think the Road Warriors are the greatest tag team of all time, but beyond question, to me, the greatest tag team champions in WWE history, that has to be the Hart Foundation, and it's not even close. But I did love, and I know you guys noticed this too, how when they were announcing the names for the greatest WWE champion in history, there was no Bruno Sammartino, no Rock. And then when they got to the point where they were getting ready to say Hulk Hogan's name, the Shield's music played. Like it was an intentional attempt to bury the Hogan name, even though they knew they couldn't do the list without putting his name and likeness on there. Yet when the results came back, you had God on the list, You had Cena on the list. You had CM Punk on the list. You had the WWE's precious boy, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Hogan buried all that shit. He fucked it up. He dominated. It was like 58-60%. The rest of the percentages for everybody else combined didn't even add up to Hogan's total. That's because Hogan is the greatest WWE champion of all time, period. In your face, Vince. So presentation, like I said, there are plenty of good things and a couple of misses. Now we move on to match quality. And look at each of the matches. The IC title match that was kind of thrown together at the last minute. There's not a whole lot of emotional investment in it. It's a match that's just kind of there. It kind of feels like a match that would just belong in the middle of a Raw or a SmackDown, frankly. I understand it was trying to establish Curtis Axel, give him a little credibility heading into the match later on in the show, but it was what it was. It was an opening match that felt more like a TV match. The Divas title match, I said, even if the match was crappy, which this one was in my opinion, as long as anybody but AJ won, I would be okay with it. Well, the match was crappy, was poorly timed, and just seemed very choppy and like too choreographed, but choreographed poorly. And AJ Lee won. So all around, just a total disappointment. The World Heavyweight Championship, it was okay. You know, the crowd was behind RVD, but I didn't care about this match. You know, I just didn't. At least RVD isn't the champion. Miss Fandango, again, felt like really, frankly, another TV match. That's pretty much what it felt like to me. CM Punk versus Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman was really good, especially because of the way it told the story. And you did have a bit of surprise finish. Whether you like the surprise finish or not, you got a good match, I think, between Punk and Axel. Then you got that somewhat of a payoff with the interaction between Punk and Heyman. And then you got that big twist and surprise to where Paul Heyman still ends up beating CM Punk because Ryback puts him through a table. So you got a lot of elements there that made for a really good match. The U.S. Championship between Ziggler and Ambrose, this felt like, you know, an opening match of a pay-per-view quality type of match. And I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as an okay thing. It wasn't a lot of story to it, but the quality of the match itself was pretty good. Tag title match, I thought was really good, frankly. I really liked the chemistry between the PT Peers and the Shield. I personally am a little disappointed that they didn't go with the PT Peers winning the tag team titles. I think the PT Peers are on the cusp of getting really over as babyfaces. You got the people in the crowd doing the millions of dollars dance. The people like the primetime players. You could have had them win here and then even lose the belts back a week or two later on Raw or SmackDown. You know, but the match was really good. I thought it was a good, solid tag team match. And then the WWE Championship match. Was I the only one that thought it was a little short? Maybe it had plenty of time, but when I was watching it, it felt like it was a little short. It did feel like it was maybe slightly rushed. I liked the match. I don't think it was the greatest thing ever. I thought Daniel Bryan could have stepped up his game more because Mr. RKO, Randall Keith Orton, obviously had to carry his highfalutin shenanigan ass. No, Daniel Bryan did well as well. Of course, you get to the talk of the finish and everything, which I'll talk about in the storytelling elements of this pay-per-view. But you got some good action. You know, this match had a lot of interest and intrigue going into it, and you got a surprise finish. You know, so it was a match that belonged in the main event and did something to get you curious about what's going to happen next. So match quality, to me, frankly, you had several matches on this card that didn't really feel pay-per-view worthy, but you had a couple of really good matches that helped the overall quality of the matches. But this was far from a 5-star wrestling pay-per-view extravaganza in terms of the match quality, damn it. Now, even though the character roles are technically switched now compared to a year ago, and Ryback is the cowardly chicken shit heel, and CM Punk is the babyface, am I the only one that does not want to see this at all whatsoever? Am I the only one? I don't think so. I mean, now from a storytelling standpoint, you got some type of a blow-off to Punk and Heyman, but you've still got reasons for this feud to continue, which is a good thing, which means that they're not giving up on it, and they shouldn't give up on it, because Heyman kind of got his comeuppance, but he didn't really. And from a storytelling standpoint, that's very good. Looking forward and thinking about Ryback and Punk feuding again, no, I really don't care to see that. At least they would be utilizing Ryback. And at least Punk would have something that would be of some significance and importance. But, yeah, I just don't want to see the feud. Storytelling-wise, the way they did this was very good, I thought. In terms of RVD versus ADR, the way ADR lost but still kept his title, you know, classic heel tactics 101. The heel gets DQ'd, loses the match, keeps the title. You've got a reason to have another match at the next pay-per-view Battleground. Well, you know what? It sounds basic, but sometimes that's a good thing. You had a Michigan crowd. They probably were looking very forward to seeing RVD walk out of there with the title, and it didn't happen. But he was that close. So now people have a reason to go to the venue or to watch it on pay-per-view and pay their money to watch it if they want to see RVD win, because now they have to watch again to see if he'll actually do it. And then Daniel Bryan versus the whole corporate machine. You know, I understand a lot of people are probably going to bitch about the way the finish happened with the fast count. It was kind of out of nowhere, and you're like, huh? But you got to remember, as soon as SummerSlam happened and you come back the next night, you haven't seen Vince since. He's pretty much been out of the picture. And make no mistake about it, ultimately, the most important storyline to the WWE right now is Triple H versus Vince McMahon. That's the most important storyline. And if you're under any delusions that anything else is, then you're just lying to yourself. Some of these other things are important. I'm not saying that. And even Daniel Bryan versus Randy Orton is important. Daniel Bryan against Triple H is important. But still look at it from the standpoint is technically Daniel Bryan is a form of a plot device for the advancement, ultimately, of the story between Vince McMahon and Triple H. You might not like the finish of it, and I understand, but I don't agree with you. I like the finish because what it does, it leaves things up in the air. It leaves it up in the air that Vince could come back. It leaves it up in the air for what's going to happen on Raw and how they're going to follow up on this. It's actually got you wanting to tune in to see what happens. But above all else, just think about this. If I'd have told you this 3-4 years ago, you'd have called me a clown, a loon, a moron, an asshole. All those things you usually call me in the comments, but you would have had real justification for it. If I'd have told you in 2 straight pay-per-views, in the main event, that Daniel Bryan was going to pin John Cena and then Randy Orton in back-to-back pay-per-views in the main event to win the WWE Championship each time, you would have called me crazy. But that's exactly what happened. If you ever wanted any validation that the WWE at least thinks very highly, at the very worst, of Daniel Bryan and views him at least as a main event type of player in their company, you got that validation now. And now he overcame some odds. Sure, it might have been some hoodwinking and highfalutin shenanigans, but you used to get all that shit in the Attitude Era, an era that so many of you come on here all the time and kiss its ass for. All this same shit used to happen all the time during the Monday Night Wars and during the Attitude Era. And it happens now and people are going to bitch about it just because their boy Daniel Bryan didn't win 100% clean. He still pinned John Cena last month in the main event of SummerSlam. And then he turns around and pins fucking Randy Orton. He pinned 2 members of the Breakfast Club. He's a god away from hitting the old Stamford, Connecticut triangle. It doesn't get any bigger than that. Think about that. He pinned Cena. He pinned Orton. You should be thankful that the Breakfast Club has allowed Daniel Bryan to be elevated so much. You should be thankful that the Breakfast Club has decided to put Daniel Bryan over so much. And now you have even more reason to tune into Raw. That's a good thing. You've already set the wheels in motion for really the next 2 pay-per-views. That's a good job by the WWE, whether you want to admit it or not. In terms of a pay-per-view having memorable moments, I think that's something that is important. Because, you know, you could have okay match quality, okay storytelling, okay presentation. But if you got a lot of things you're going to remember and a lot of things that stick with you, man, that helps the profile of that show, especially as time goes along and you look back at it in history. This pay-per-view here, I didn't think was as good as SummerSlam. Still thought it was good, but I didn't think it was very good to great like I thought SummerSlam was. Match quality wasn't as good. Presentation, there were some good things, a couple of not so good things. A few good storytelling things, but not enough storytelling, not enough story advancement. Memorable moments, you know, Punk whipping up on Heyman, handcuffing him, beating him repeatedly with the kendo stick to me is memorable. Ryback putting Punk through the table is memorable. The fast count, you know, and Daniel Bryan beating Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. that's memorable, but not a lot of memorable moments here. So like I said, when I look at the whole picture and the big four square of presentation, match quality, storytelling, and memorable moments, is graded out as an okay show. A good show. Not terrible, but if you're not enjoying the WWE product right now, this probably was a terrible show to you. You thought it sucked. A lot of the things that you're looking at right now that you think suck about the WWE, you got them here in great abundance. If this is a instance where you love just about everything WWE is doing right now, you got a lot of those same things in this pay-per-view, so as a result, you're going to love this show. Like I said, for me, I'm enjoying plenty of things about the WWE. There's still some things that bother me, but I'm enjoying it much more now than I have been for a long time. So there was some enjoyment here, a couple of things that bothered me and irritated me, but not enough for me to linger on about it for 15 or 20 minutes like the Schleg Daddy of old. So, very good SummerSlam. Okay, good Night of Champions. I've seen the WWE do much worse.